The custody battle destroyed my mother. I was 12 when the judge ruled in my father's favor. Not because he was the better parent, but because he could afford the better lawyer. Mom got every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. Dad got me his pristine house in the suburbs, and his new wife, Catherine, who smiled at me like I was a stray cat she'd agreed to tolerate. Catherine came with her own daughter. Madison was 10, blonde, bubbly, and instantly adored by my father in a way that made my chest tight. I watched him ruffle her hair at breakfast. I watched him attend every single one of her dance recitals. I watched him become a different father, the kind I'd spent my childhood wishing for. My Aunt Lisa saw it too. Mom's older sister had always been more mother than aunt to me anyway. After the custody ruling, she became my lifeline. Every Wednesday after those awkward dinners with Dad, I'd call her from the Target parking lot where Dad would drop me off to wait for Mom. Every other weekend, Mom would bring me to Aunt Lisa's house where I actually felt like I belonged. "He's trying," Mom would say, always defending him even after everything. Aunt Lisa would just look at me with those knowing eyes. "Sarah," she'd say quietly, using my full name like she always did when something was important. "You don't have to make excuses for him." Not to me. The pattern solidified over the years. Madison got the bigger bedroom when we moved to the new house because she has more dance stuff. Sarah, be reasonable. Madison got the family trip to Disney World for her 13th birthday because it's a milestone. You understand, right? Madison got Dad at her high school graduation. Front row, flowers and all. I got him in the parking lot afterward, checking his phone, because Madison had a party to get to. I stopped expecting anything different. I stopped hoping he'd wake up one day and remember he had another daughter. By the time I turned 18 and moved in with Aunt Lisa full-time to finish my senior year, I'd made peace with it. Or at least, I'd built walls high enough that I didn't have to look at it anymore. College was freedom. I threw myself into my studies, into my part-time job, into building a life that didn't revolve around waiting for my father to notice me. I met James in my sophomore year. He was kind and steady and completely uninterested in drama. His family was small but warm. They welcomed me instantly. His grandmother, Nana Ruth, reminded me of Aunt Lisa. Sharp, funny, unafraid to call out nonsense when she saw it. James proposed on a beach in North Carolina, during a long weekend trip with his family. Simple, perfect, exactly us. Aunt Lisa cried when I called her. "I always knew you'd find your people," she said. The wedding planning started immediately. James and I wanted something intimate but meaningful. We chose October 15th, a year and a half away, to save up and plan properly. The venue was a restored barn outside of Raleigh. All string lights and exposed wood beams. Our guest list was small, 75 people who actually mattered to us. I debated for weeks about whether to invite Dad. James, ever the optimist, thought I should. "Maybe this is a chance for things to change," he said gently. "It's your wedding day. You might regret it if he's not there." Aunt Lisa was less diplomatic. "That man hasn't earned a seat at your wedding, let alone the honor of walking you down the aisle. But it's your choice, sweetheart. Just know I'll support whatever you decide." I invited him. I told myself it was about being the bigger person, about not letting old wounds dictate my happiness. I told myself a lot of things. The truth was simpler and more pathetic. Some part of me still wanted my father at my wedding, still wanted him to show up for me, just once. I asked him over coffee at a neutral Starbucks, 6 months before the wedding. Madison wasn't there. Mercifully. Just Dad and me, sitting across from each other like polite strangers. "October 15th, I said, sliding the save the date across the table. "I'd really like you to be there." And I took a breath, hating how nervous I felt. "I'd like you to walk me down the aisle." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or guilt. He picked up the card, studied it. "October 15th, he repeated. "That's a Saturday?" "Yes. The ceremony's at 4. He nodded slowly. Set the card down. "Let me check with Catherine. But yes, Sarah, I'd be honored." I should have caught it then, the way he said let me check instead of course, or I wouldn't miss it. I should have known better, but I was so desperate for that one moment of feeling chosen that I ignored every red flag waving in front of me. The months passed. Deposits were paid. Invitations went out. Dad confirmed he'd received his invitation. He said he'd marked his calendar. He asked about the dress code. All signs pointed to him actually showing up. Then, 3 weeks before the wedding, Madison called me. We weren't close, we'd barely spoken since I'd moved out 6 years ago, but her name on my phone screen still made my stomach drop. "Hey, Sarah," she said, voice bright and bubbly as always. I wanted to give you a heads up about something before you heard it from Dad. My hand tightened on my phone. What's going on? So, my 30th birthday is October 19th, right? And Mark, my fiancé, he's been planning this huge surprise party for me. Like, massive. He rented out this whole event space. Flew in my friends from Portland. The works. It's literally the party of the year. She laughed, delighted with herself. But here's the thing. The only date the venue had available was October 15th, so we had to take it. I know that's your wedding day, but honestly, it's just a coincidence, you know? Anyway, I wanted to tell you before Dad brought it up. I sat there in my apartment, phone pressed to my ear, while something cold and familiar settled in my chest. You scheduled your birthday party on my wedding day. Well, it's not really my birthday yet. But yeah, Mark made the reservation and we couldn't change it. These things book up so far in advance. You understand, right? My wedding has been planned for over a year, Madison. The date's been set since last March. Right. But this venue is impossible to get. And it's my 30th, Sarah. That's like a major milestone. Mark put so much work into this. And my wedding isn't important? Her sigh crackled through the phone. Don't be dramatic. I'm just saying, these things happen. It's not personal. Besides, it's not like we're in the same state. The party's here in Charlotte. Your wedding's in Raleigh. Completely different. 2 hours apart, Madison. Well, yeah, but still. Anyway, I should go. Congrats on the wedding and all. I'm sure it'll be beautiful. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, that cold feeling spreading through my entire body. She hadn't apologized, hadn't acknowledged how completely insane it was to book an event on someone's wedding day when that date had been public knowledge for over a year. She just called to give me a heads up, like she was doing me a favor. I called Aunt Lisa. She listened to the whole thing without interrupting, then said, very calmly, "That girl did that on purpose." I don't know. Sarah, she did it on purpose. I promise you, there was no venue conflict. She picked your wedding day deliberately because she can't stand not being the center of attention, and she's counting on your father choosing her party over your wedding. He wouldn't do that. Sweetheart. Aunt Lisa's voice was gentle but firm. When has he ever chosen you? I didn't want to believe it. I spent the next 2 days in denial, telling James it was just an unfortunate coincidence, that Dad would obviously still come to the wedding. Madison's party was in the evening anyway. He could do both. Then Dad called. "Sarah, we need to talk about the wedding." My heart sank. I was in the barn venue, actually, doing a final walkthrough with the coordinator. I stepped outside into the October afternoon, leaves crunching under my feet. What about it? Madison's party is the same day. Catherine and I are expected to be there. It's her 30th birthday. You understand how important that is. My wedding is important too. Of course it is. But Madison's our daughter. Catherine's daughter. This is a milestone birthday, and Mark has put together this whole elaborate surprise. We can't miss it. You can't miss it, I repeated, voice flat. But you can miss my wedding. Don't be like that, Sarah. You're being unfair. The party is at 7. Your ceremony is at 4. The timing doesn't work. Charlotte to Raleigh is 2 hours. We'd never make it. You could come to my wedding and skip the party. Or come to my wedding and go to the party late. Sarah. He sighed. That same exhausted sigh I'd heard my entire childhood whenever I asked for too much. Madison is my daughter. This is her 30th birthday. Her fiancé has planned something special. We can't just not show up. I'm your daughter. Silence. I'm your daughter, I repeated, louder now. This is my wedding. I asked you 6 months ago to walk me down the aisle. You said yes. You said you'd be honored. I know, and I'm sorry about the timing, but Madison is more important. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Dad? Say it clearly. Tell me exactly what you're telling me right now. Another silence. Then quietly, I can't make it to your wedding, Sarah. I'm sorry, but you have James's family there. You'll have plenty of support. Something in me cracked, not broke, that had happened years ago. This was different. This was the final piece of whatever hope I'd been clinging to finally disintegrating. You're choosing her party over my wedding. It's not about choosing. Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. And you've made your choice. Again. Sarah, don't be childish about this. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. Childish. Right. Okay, Dad. Don't worry about the wedding. Like you said, I have plenty of support. Enjoy the party." I hung up before he could respond. Stood there in the parking lot of my wedding venue, staring at the barn where I'd be getting married in 3 weeks, and felt absolutely nothing. Numb, empty, done. James found me 20 minutes later, still standing there. He took one look at my face and pulled me into his arms. I didn't cry. I'd used up all my tears for my father years ago. "He's not coming," I said into James's shoulder. "He chose Madison's party." James held me tighter. "Then we'll make sure someone better walks you down that aisle." I pulled back, looking up at him. Who raised you, Sarah? Who showed up for every important moment? Who's been your real parent all these years?" "Aunt Lisa." The answer was so obvious I couldn't believe I'd ever considered anyone else. I called her that night. She answered on the second ring, like she always did. "Hey, sweetheart, how'd the venue walkthrough go?" "Aunt Lisa, Dad's not coming to the wedding." Silence. Then, "That son of a... he's going to Madison's 30th birthday party instead." "Of course he is." She didn't sound surprised, just tired and angry on my behalf. "I'm sorry, Sarah. You deserved better than this. I need to ask you something. Anything." I took a breath. "Will you walk me down the aisle?" Her silence was different this time, thick with emotion. When she finally spoke, her voice was rough. "Sarah, I would be honored, truly honored." "You're the one who's been there," I said, tears finally coming. "You're the one who showed up. You're more my parent than he ever was. I love you, kiddo. I've always been so proud of you, and I will walk you down that aisle with my head held high, because you are extraordinary, and he's a fool for not seeing it." We cried together over the phone. Then we laughed. Then we started planning. Because that's what you do when you've spent your whole life making the best of what you've been given. You keep going. The next 3 weeks blurred together. I threw myself into final preparations. Aunt Lisa and I went dress shopping together. She wore a navy pantsuit that made her look elegant and powerful. We practiced the walk, laughing when she kept wanting to go too fast. "I'm excited," she defended. "I've been waiting for this moment since you were 12 years old." James's family rallied around us. Nana Ruth, in particular, took the news of my father's absence as a personal offense. "That man is a coward," she declared at the rehearsal dinner. "But you, darling, are better off without him. You have family who actually deserves you." I didn't tell Dad that Aunt Lisa was walking me down the aisle. I didn't tell him anything. He sent a card with a check 2 weeks before the wedding, like money could substitute for presents. I deposited the check and threw away the card. Madison posted constantly on social media about her upcoming party, the decorations, the guest list, the dress she'd bought. Every post felt like a deliberate taunt, though James kept insisting I was reading too much into it. Maybe I was. Or maybe I'd finally learned to see her for who she actually was. The morning of October 15th dawned clear and cool, perfect fall weather. I woke up in the bridal suite at the barn, Aunt Lisa already awake and making coffee. "Big day," she said, handing me a mug. "Big day," I agreed. We spent the morning getting ready with my bridesmaids, 3 college friends, and James's sister, Emily. The energy was light, happy. No one mentioned my father's absence. It felt like a relief, honestly. Not having to perform the role of dutiful daughter. Not having to pretend everything was fine when it never had been. Aunt Lisa cried when she saw me in my dress. "Your mother would be so proud," she whispered. Mom had passed away 3 years ago. Cancer, fast and brutal. But I felt her presence that day more strongly than I'd felt my father's presence in years. At 3:30, Aunt Lisa and I stood in the barn's entrance, waiting for our cue. She looked at me, eyes shining. "You ready?" "I'm ready." "I love you, Sarah. Being your aunt has been the greatest honor of my life." "I love you too. Thank you for being here. For always being here." The music started. We walked. The barn was filled with soft light and the faces of people who actually cared about me. James stood at the altar, tears already streaming down his face. Nana Ruth blew me a kiss from the front row. My college advisor, who'd become a mentor and friend, gave me a thumbs up. Aunt Lisa walked me all the way down that aisle, her hand steady on my arm. When we reached James, she kissed my cheek, then shook James's hand. "You take care of her," she said firmly. "Always," James promised. The ceremony was perfect. Simple, meaningful, exactly what we'd wanted. I didn't think about my father once during my vows. I didn't wonder if he was thinking about me during Madison's party. I was too busy being present in my own moment, surrounded by people who'd earned their place in my life. The reception was joyful. We danced, ate too much cake, laughed until our faces hurt. Aunt Lisa gave a toast that had everyone crying and laughing in equal measure. Sarah has taught me that family isn't about blood, she said. It's about showing up. It's about choosing someone every single day, and I am grateful every single day that I got to be chosen by her. I thought that was the end of it. Wedding over, Dad's absence noted but not dwelled upon, life moving forward. I was wrong. The fallout started on Sunday morning. James and I were packing for our honeymoon a week in Savannah when my phone started blowing up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails, all from Dad. The first voicemail was angry. "Sarah, what the hell was that? You had your aunt walk you down the aisle? That was supposed to be my job. How could you disrespect me like that? In front of everyone?" I stared at my phone, genuinely confused. He hadn't planned to be there. He'd chosen Madison's party. What exactly had I done wrong? The second voicemail was more of the same. "People are asking me why I wasn't at your wedding, why your aunt walked you down the aisle. This is humiliating, Sarah. You made me look like a terrible father." The third voicemail was Catherine, her voice tight with anger. "Madison's party was ruined because your father was upset all night about missing your wedding. Her special day was destroyed because of your drama. I hope you're happy." I listened to all of them twice, trying to understand the logic. He'd chosen not to come to my wedding. I'd found someone else to walk me down the aisle. And somehow, I was the villain in this story? James read the texts over my shoulder. "Don't respond," he said. "Not now. Not when you're this angry." He was right, but it was hard. The texts kept coming. Dad, Catherine, even Madison, all variations on the same theme. I'd humiliated them, caused unnecessary drama, been selfish and cruel. Then Nana Ruth called. "Darling, I just got off the phone with your father." My stomach dropped. "How did he get your number?" "He found me on Facebook. Called me demanding to know why we let you humiliate him like that." She paused. I told him the truth, which was that he humiliated himself, that he chose a birthday party over his daughter's wedding, and actions have consequences, that you found someone who actually deserved the honor of walking you down that aisle, and he should be ashamed of himself for being upset about it. Despite everything, I smiled. What did he say? He sputtered a lot. Brought up Madison's milestone birthday. I told him 30 isn't a milestone, it's just a birthday, and he's been making excuses for prioritizing that girl over you for years. Then I hung up on him. "Nana Ruth, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did. Someone needed to tell that man the truth, and clearly no one in his life has the spine to do it. You are a beautiful, accomplished, kind woman, Sarah. He missed out. That's his loss, not yours." The calls and texts continued for days. I blocked Dad and Catherine eventually, but the messages still came through other channels. Catherine's sister sent me a Facebook message, calling me ungrateful. Madison's friend left a comment on my wedding photo calling me manipulative. The strangest part was how many people reached out to support me. Friends of Mom's who'd watched me grow up. Former teachers. Neighbors from the old house. People I hadn't thought about in years sent messages saying they'd heard about the wedding, heard about Dad's choice, and wanted me to know they thought Aunt Lisa was the perfect person to walk me down the aisle. "People always knew," Aunt Lisa said when I mentioned it. "They saw how he treated you. They just didn't say anything because it wasn't their place. But now they're saying it. Dad's reputation took a hit. Not that I was trying to damage it, I wasn't posting about any of this publicly, but people talked. Charlotte's not that big of a city, and the story was too good not to spread. Father skips daughter's wedding for stepdaughter's birthday party, then gets upset when daughter finds someone else to walk her down the aisle. His business partner's wife reached out 3 weeks after the wedding. "I want to apologize," she said when I finally answered her call. "We've known your father for years, and I always thought he was just busy. I didn't realize how much he'd neglected you. What he did was wrong. My husband and I want you to know we support you. It was surreal. All these people coming out of the woodwork to validate something I'd known my entire life but had always been told I was being too sensitive about. Turns out I hadn't been sensitive enough. I'd been too understanding, too willing to make excuses, too desperate for scraps of his attention. Dad tried calling from different numbers. I blocked them all. Then he showed up at our apartment. James answered the door. I heard his voice, low and firm. "She doesn't want to talk to you. She's my daughter. I have a right. You gave up that right when you chose a party over her wedding. You don't get to show up now and demand her time. Leave, or I'm calling the police." I stood in our bedroom, listening, something fierce and proud swelling in my chest. James had my back. He'd always have my back. Dad left. But he came back 2 days later with a letter. James brought it to me, letting me decide whether to open it. I did, eventually. The letter was classic Dad. Half apology, half justification. He was sorry I was hurt. He hadn't meant for things to turn out this way. Madison's party had been important to Catherine, and keeping Catherine happy was important to his marriage. Surely I could understand that. He wanted to make things right. Could we meet for coffee? I read it twice, then handed it to Aunt Lisa. She read it, lips pressed thin. What do you want to do? I don't know. Do you want a relationship with him? That was the question, wasn't it? Did I want to keep trying? Keep hoping he'd change? Keep accepting whatever scraps he was willing to give? No, I said slowly. I don't think I do. Then you don't owe him anything. Not a meeting, not a response, not forgiveness. You get to choose who's in your life, Sarah, and you get to unchoose people who've spent years proving they don't deserve to be there. I didn't respond to his letter. 3 weeks later, he tried again, this time with an email. Same energy. Sorry, but also, you need to understand my position. Can we move past this? I didn't respond to that either. Madison got engaged. Catherine sent a mass email announcement with photos of the proposal. I wasn't included in the email chain, but Madison's friend who'd commented on my wedding photo forwarded it to me with a snarky message. Thought you'd want to know your sister is getting married. Maybe don't schedule anything important on her wedding day. I blocked her too. Christmas came. No card from Dad, no gift, no call. It should have hurt, but mostly it felt like relief. Like finally being released from an obligation I'd been carrying since childhood. James and I hosted Thanksgiving at our apartment. Aunt Lisa came, of course. So did Nana Ruth and several of James's relatives. We filled our tiny space with food and laughter and people who'd chosen to be there. That was family. Not the people you were born to, but the people who showed up. 6 months after the wedding, Dad called from a new number. I didn't recognize it, so I answered. Sarah, please don't hang up. I should have. But curiosity won. What do you want? I want to apologize. Really apologize. Not the half-hearted ones I sent before. I was wrong. I've been wrong for a long time. I prioritized Madison because... He paused. Because Catherine asked me to, and it was easier than dealing with the guilt of the divorce. I took the easy road. I chose comfort over my responsibility to you. And I'm sorry. I sat down on our couch, phone pressed to my ear, feeling absolutely nothing. Okay. I hear your apology. I'm glad you've realized you messed up. But I don't know what you want me to do with that information. I want a chance to make things right. It's too late for that. Sarah, please, you're my daughter. Aunt Lisa is more of a parent to me than you've ever been. She's the one who showed up. She's the one who walked me down the aisle. She earned that honor. You didn't. I know, but I'm trying now. Doesn't that count for something? Maybe it would have counted for something 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or any of the hundreds of times I needed you and you weren't there. But now, I took a breath. Now I've built a life without you. And it's a good life. I'm happy. I have people who love me and show up for me. I don't need you to suddenly decide I'm worth your time. Please, give me a chance. You had chances. You had hundreds of chances. You chose not to take them. That's not my fault. And it's not my responsibility to fix. What about forgiveness? I forgive you, I said, and meant it. I forgive you for not being the father I needed. I forgive you for choosing Madison over me, over and over again. I forgive you for missing my wedding, but forgiveness doesn't mean letting you back in. It just means I'm not carrying your choices around with me anymore. Silence on his end. Then, quietly, I understand. I hope you do better with Madison, I said. I hope you show up for her the way you never showed up for me. She deserves that. Everyone deserves that. Sarah. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. Sat there on the couch in the afternoon light and felt the weight of 26 years finally lift off my shoulders. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't hurt. I was just done. James came home an hour later and found me still sitting there. You okay? Yeah, I said. I really am. He sat next to me, pulling me close. What happened? Dad called, apologized, asked for another chance. And I said no. I'm done, James. I spent my whole life waiting for him to choose me. I'm not doing that anymore. Good, he said simply. You deserve people who choose you first. 2 months later, Aunt Lisa called with news. Your father is telling people you've cut him off over a misunderstanding, that you're being dramatic. I wasn't surprised. People like Dad rarely took responsibility, even when they claimed to. Let him tell whatever story he needs to tell. I've been telling anyone who'll listen the truth, Aunt Lisa said. Don't worry, people know. I'm not worried. His reputation isn't my responsibility. I'm proud of you, kiddo. Setting boundaries is hard. I learned from the best. Madison got married in June. I wasn't invited, obviously. I saw the photos on Facebook before someone inevitably tagged me by accident, and I had to untag myself. Dad walked her down the aisle. He looked happy. Good for him. I felt nothing. No jealousy, no pain, no anger, just a distant sense of relief that I'd stopped competing for something I was never going to win. Here's what I learned. You can't make someone choose you. You can't love someone into being a better person. You can't fix a relationship by yourself when the other person isn't willing to try. But you can choose yourself. You can build a family from the people who show up. You can walk away from relationships that drain you, even when those relationships are supposed to be the most important ones. My wedding day was perfect. Not because my father was there, but because he wasn't. Because the people who walked me down that aisle, who stood beside me, who celebrated with me, they were the ones who'd earned that place in my life. Aunt Lisa calls me every Sunday. We have dinner together twice a month. She's teaching me to knit, something she learned from her mother, who learned from hers. That's legacy. That's family. James's grandmother sends us care packages with homemade cookies and hand-knitted scarves. We spend holidays with his family, and they never make me feel like an outsider. Last week, I ran into Catherine at the grocery store. She saw me, hesitated, then kept walking. I felt relief, not hurt. That door is closed. I'm not opening it again. This week, I'm starting therapy. Not because I'm broken, but because I want to make sure I don't carry patterns from my childhood into my future. If James and I have kids someday, I want to be the kind of parent who shows up, who chooses them, consistently, over and over. I want to be like Aunt Lisa, like Nana Ruth, like all the people who taught me that family is a choice, and love is an action. My father chose Madison. That's his right. But I get to choose too, and I choose the people who choose me back. Where are you watching from today? Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. I share real family drama stories every week. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one.